Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with part 36, Defense and Fall of Acre, of the Origin of Freemasonry and Knights Templar by John Bennett. Defense and Fall of Acre. With less than 12,000 persons able to bear arms, they manned the ramparts and defended the city against 200,000 Muslims. Almost every nation of Europe was represented in the multitudes that thronged the cities that had gathered within the defenses of the city. On the 4th day of May, a day fatal to the Christians, the signal for the last assault was given. At dawn, the Muslim army was under arms, the Sultan animating the soldiers by his presence. Battle before Acre. Both the attack and defense were much greater than the days before. Among those who fell on the field of battle, there were 7 Muslims for 1 Christian, but the Muslim could repair their losses. Those of the Christians were irreparable. With ever-increasing vehemence, the Muslims leveled their destroying energies against the tottering walls and towers of the city. At last, an important defense, known by the name of the Cursed Tower, yielded to the assailants and went down with a crash. The breach, thus effected in the defenses, opened into the heart of the city. The Templars formed a rash resolution of making a sortie and attacking the camp of the Muslims. They found the enemies drawn up in the order of battle. After a bloody conflict with the Templars, were repulsed and pursued to the foot of the ramparts. The Grand Master of the Templars, William de Beaujeu, one of the bravest of the brave, was struck by an arrow and fell in the midst of his knights. The Grand Master of the Hospitallers at the same time received a wound which disabled him. The rout then became general, and all hope of saving the city was lost. In poured the savage tides of victorious Islam, hungry for blood and revenge. It was then a death pall seemed stretched over the whole city of Acre. There was not a street that did not become the theater of carnage. A battle was fought for every tower, for every palace, and at the entrance of every public building. And in these combats, so many men were killed that, according to the report of an historian, they walked upon the dead as upon a bridge. A violent storm, accompanied by hail and rain, burst over the city. The horizon was all at once covered with such impenetrable darkness that the combatants could scarcely distinguish the colors they fought under or see the standards floated over the towers. The flames appeared in several quarters without anyone making an effort to extinguish them. The conquerors only thought of destroying the city. The only object of the conquest was to escape. Whole families took refuge in churches, where they were stifled by the flames or cut into pieces at the foot of the altars. Many women and timid virgins, to preserve their chastity, cut off their noses and otherwise disfigured themselves to escape the brutality of the conquerors. From when the Muslims beheld their bleeding faces, they would conceive a disgust for them and put them to the sword at once. The castle of the Templars, situated on the sea coast in which all the knights had taken refuge, had escaped the steel of the Muslims, was the only place in the city that had held out. After several days' siege, the Sultan granted a capitulation and sent 300 Muslims to execute the treaty. Scarcely had these entered one of the principal towers, the Tower of the Grand Master, then they began to outrage the women who had taken refuge there. This violation of the rights of war irritated the Christian warriors to such a degree that all the Muslims who entered the tower were put to death. The angry Sultan urged the siege renewed at once, and that all Templars in the asylum be put to the sword. The Templars and their companions defended themselves for several days. At length the Tower of the Grand Master was undermined and fell at the very moment the Muslims were mounting to an assault. They who attacked it and they who defended it were equally crushed by its fall. Women, children, Christian warriors, all who had come to seek refuge in the house of the Templars, perished, buried beneath the ruins. Such was the dash, bravery, and self-sacrifice of the Templars throughout the life of the order. To follow their acts of true heroism would be to give a history of the Crusades. The few Christians still clinging to the coast of the town of Syria made their escape as soon as possible and left the savage Muslims in complete possession of the country. After a continuance of 191 years, the contest between the cross and the crescent had ended in a complete restoration of the ancient regime throughout Syria and Asia Minor. The crescent of Islam was again in the ascendant. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.